This is Jeff Slobotski here with
Shonna Dorsey and
Leirion Gaylor Baird.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you being with us and taking time out today to talk to Shonna and I. So grateful for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Really nice to be with you.
Awesome. So we're going to jump right into this. And I'm really curious, for the sake of our audience, if you can tell us about your path to mayor of Lincoln, like what led you there?
Well, I'm the daughter of two public school teachers, and so I think I have always thought about how I spend my time professionally in terms of what is that value beyond self, and how do you make a difference in your community? And for me, that has involved many different paths. I have worked in youth development programs, AmeriCorps, Boys and Girls Club, trying to help with educational opportunities for young children who may not have access to a lot of resources, either because their school districts are underfunded and under-resourced, or because the neighborhoods are primarily low income. So having done grant work, development work, and also directing a Boys and Girls Club, trying to kind of create level playing field from a young age has been something that I've done professionally prior to being in elected office. And then in choosing to live in Lincoln with my husband, who was born here, we were looking for a place where our kids could be safe, where we could have access to great public schools, where we could, be able to know our neighbors and have a great quality of life. And as time went by, I just found it was very easy to get involved in Lincoln, to help out with the children's museums events, to work with Friendship Home, a domestic violence shelter that provides safe harbor for people who need that, and our parks. I mean, the opportunities to get involved in community are there, and in taking advantage of those, just one thing led to another, and was asked to be a part of the Planning Commission here in Lincoln and Lancaster County. And the Planning Commission opened my eyes to all the work that goes into thinking about the kind of community you want to live in. How do you shape the future of a city, from transportation to housing to public spaces that allow people to either come together or intentionally? How do you create places where people can build community with one another? And as a planning commissioner, I found that work very satisfying, and an opportunity came up to be involved in a race for city council, and with some encouragement, I decided to go for that opportunity, and was fortunate enough to become an at-large city council member here in Lincoln in 2013, and got to know much more about what our residents want for the future of Lincoln, what they care about, how they want to grow the city. And when the opportunity to run for mayor came up, that was something that I had a little time to think about ahead of time, because it really came about under extraordinary circumstances. The current mayor was running for re-election. A ballot initiative that imposed term limits and prevented him from continuing that bid passed, and within moments after that, my family decided that this was a way to try to serve. And personally, beyond just the rewards of serving, like as a mother of three, having my kids see me in this role, having young girls in the community see a woman executive in a political arena, because we're so underrepresented, was also just personally motivating in my path to mayor. So, just an opportunity to try to be of use was really my main motivating factor.
That's excellent. And I love your story in the background too. Like you said, you just kind of saw steps and opportunities in front of you and took those at the right time, right? And I think sometimes people see, public service or office as something far too distant and too hard to obtain, right? But it really is kind of step by step. You just kind of, take the next step and move things forward, right? So it sounds like that's what you did as well, Mayor, which is great.
Yeah, and cities run on the backs of so much volunteer dedication and support, boards and commissions and volunteers that really help us do this incredibly difficult work of building community. So it very much feels like a partnership with residents, just in a different role.
That's great. That's really good. I'd love, Mayor, I know we talked a little bit about the idea of the role that innovational entrepreneurship plays within cities, right? As you look towards kind of what we're doing, you know, AI and autonomous vehicles and just the litany list of things in which cities can embrace. Maybe talk to me just a little bit about your kind of goals and vision for not only Lincoln, but the way that Lincoln can work with Omaha, right? And we can make the state into a community that's known for innovation and entrepreneurship.
Right, we are so proud to be a hub of the Silicon Prairie here in Lincoln, and of course the partnerships that have been developed and fostered between the startup community in Omaha and the startup community in Lincoln is all to the good. And I think that's really special that our startup community has that hashtag bang the drum. Everyone is trying to promote everyone else despite competition for capital. And it's pretty remarkable, having lived in Silicon Valley at one point, worked in Silicon Valley, to see that, you know, competition is there, but the awareness that fostering a strong ecosystem of mutual support is really beneficial to everyone's success. And so you feel that when you live in Lincoln and Omaha. Innovation is, you know, something that we value in my administration and in our community. And so we work to try to understand how we can, you know, support private sector innovation where there are partnerships that can allow for that. For example, my chief information officer is really working closely with startups in our community to try to build software applications that will be useful for our work at the city, but that also could potentially be something that is a product applicable in cities across the country that will help a business grow and market itself and be successful, you know, based here in Lincoln. So we see those opportunities as having multiple benefits. And then, of course, we want to be innovative in local government. We want to be open to new ideas and ways of serving people more effectively, efficiently, whether that's using technology or just a new approach. And I think if you are familiar with sort of our approaches during the pandemic, our health team is outstanding. They've done a phenomenal job of trying to communicate and provide good guidance for the public about how to be safe. And one of those is a tool. We have a risk dial on our website that provides kind of color coding guidance about where we are, local conditions, and then what you can do to protect yourself. And that innovation tool has been recognized, you know, among national experts who have not only, you know, been available as consultants as we developed it, but also pointed it out, and other mayors have asked for that tool. And now other health departments across the state are interested in using it. Our schools are interested in using it. So we're really, really excited about where we can innovate at the local level, not only, you know, as an organization, but in support of quality of life in our community. And also, you know, the pandemic has had incredible economic impacts, and we're created a website about how to support local suppliers of PPE, personal protective equipment. So that new tool was stood up in partnership with our business community, the Chamber of Commerce. And so we are looking for ways not only to innovate that are just, you know, good because it's substantively good, but also has an economic benefit locally.
That's really good. And, you know, speaking of the pandemic, these have been some interesting times, to say the least. Can you tell us a little bit about Lincoln's response to the protests and police brutality and all that is kind of causing a bit of an awakening, if you will?
Yes, and I think what's clear about a crisis is that it reveals in new ways systemic weaknesses. And I think for that, we can be grateful that we all have a moment of awakening and reckoning and reconciling that we have an opportunity to address. The experience, the lived experience of people of color in our communities is having a profound light shed on it. Some people are coming to this conversation for the first time, and that's a good thing, because the more people who are aware and outraged, as they should be, the more people have an opportunity to take not only the step of crying for change, but steps and meaningful actions, whether you're in City Hall, in an employment situation, you know, an employer, or another institution of education. The depth of structural inequalities is coming to light in new ways for people that will allow us to address them in meaningful ways. And so while I don't think any of us would ever want to experience what we experienced last week in terms of chaos and violence and destruction, it's also really important that we, going forward, don't accept violence against the bodies of people of color. That reality of lived experience, of living in fear, of parents having the talk with their Black and brown babies, it can't continue. So while we have had an extraordinary start to our 2020, it's an extraordinary opportunity for our country to reduce the ability to flourish and to experience their full human potential. And that's what we want. We don't want people to live in fear. We don't want people to feel like they aren't being treated as full human beings. And to the extent that this is a moment where we can actually reimagine our institutions in profound ways, then this crisis is very valuable in achieving real change.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, spot on. Mayor, I'd like to ask a question. Where do you garner your kind of inspiration or motivation from, right? And I know over the last 2 weeks may be different, right? But are there particular authors or books or just things that, or individuals that you may follow, just in general, to kind of keep you moving Lincoln forward and keep you kind of pushing forward on the journey of leading a city in our state?
Well, it starts really close and personal. I mean, my kids. I have 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son. And, when I do the work I'm doing, I'm at the, one of the things that's so wonderful about working in local government is that you're so closely connected to the people you're serving. I'm making a difference and my team is making a difference for our neighbors and for our families. And so, if we make our schools stronger, I'm helping my kids' education and my neighbors' kids' education. If we're doing work on affordable housing, then all of our neighborhoods are benefiting and our quality of life as a community is growing. And that's close and personal and accessible. So, I guess the motivation comes from all places, sometimes positive role models, which I've been lucky to have in my life, but also sometimes those terrible experiences. When I was in college, a number of my classmates we lost a number of my classmates over a very short period of time, whether it was car accident or shooting or cancer. And at age 19, sort of experiencing the loss and recognizing how short life can be at a time when you really want to think, oh, I'm invincible. Right. Experiencing that loss was just such a push towards urgency that you got to make your days count. You never know how many days you get. And I've had decades longer than the classmates I lost, and I want to make them count. And that today that's as a mayor, tomorrow that may be something else, but you don't get these days back. Right. So what do you want people to say about your life when they come to an end? That's part of what motivates me.
I love it. You seriously have been one of my favorite people for a long time. I have a lot of respect for you because I love to take the approach of what small thing can we do, try it out, see if it works. And if it does, and there is a huge benefit and we can create these win-win-win scenarios, we can scale it and do things that are to the benefit of the greater good. So I've always appreciated that about you. So thank you for that. One final question I have, and Jeff, you may have a question. Maybe, I don't know. But one final question I have is, if Yeah, if there was one project you could tackle for Nebraskans or even the city of Lincoln and resources were not an issue, what would it be?
It is really hard to ask a mayor to pick one because right now we're working on so many. When I came into office, the vision we set was to lead Lincoln towards a more successful, secure, and shared future. And that plays out in many ways. We announced some initiatives around resilient Lincoln. We want to be able to weather the challenges that face our community, whether they're related to climate, challenges to our infrastructure like the historic floods last year, or the societal and civil unrest that we've experienced based on profound divisions and inequalities in our community. Another initiative is One Lincoln, which is trying to build that sense of a shared future that we are all in this together. The pandemic has accelerated that ability for people to understand our interconnectedness. But the recent events and the peaceful protests have showed us just how far we have to go. But that is a priority. And then Lincoln Forward is about making Lincoln the quality of life capital of the country and making sure that the opportunities here are strong, accessible to all, and they advance our competitive advantage and quality of life. So those are all kind of high, sort of big picture priorities and part of the vision that I have for my community. But I saw, when I think about this question, if it's, something without resources that could really make a difference, probably with all those initiatives, is when I think about my professional experience in youth development, early childhood education, over which I do not see, we don't oversee the schools here at the City Hall, but universal early childhood education that is high quality, that works to level the playing field before it gets too off kilter, can make such a difference. Whether that's people's ability to read, and there's all kinds of studies about, if you aren't on track with your reading levels, your chances of graduating from high school are significantly different. That's important for workforce. It's important to support parents that are working and trying to support their families to have high quality childcare experiences, but not just childcare, like education. And there's a lot of disparate opportunity related to those early years that are so important for brain development and health. And I think if we could do a better job, if there were unlimited resources to provide that kind of high quality early childhood education, our world would be a better place.
Yeah, that's good. Mayor, I'm inspired, just kind of our short conversation here, and I am appreciative and grateful of your vision for Lincoln, and I know you are passionate about our state as well, just as a community, and so thank you. I know a lot of times you get individuals that are maybe reaching out with criticisms or critiques or things they want different, but I'm grateful for a visionary leader in our state that's pushing us forward, and it's not easy. So continue the hard work, and we're behind you 100%. So
thank you. It's a team effort, telling Nebraska's story, telling Lincoln's story, telling Omaha's story, and we need more people to know the amazing things that are happening here, both in our local communities and in our startup community, and we have so much to offer, and we're such a great place to land. We truly are the middle of everywhere, and people need to know that, and they need to come, and they need to stay. Yeah. So thank you.